Education, they say, is the game changer, and it can change anybody's situation. But that is if that person is able to acquire that education. In our country, there are many who desire to get that education, but it's a problem owing to the lack of funds or the inability to pay for that desired education, which will lead to that change. Government after government have sought for ways to help, they say, but it never worked. Individuals have tried scholarship programs here and there, but not everyone is able to get a scholarship. So how then would that Nigerian who desires to go to school be able to fund it? The Nigeria Education Loan Fund, NEL Fund, is considered a pivotal financial institution established under the Student Loans Access to Higher Education Repeal and Reenactment Act of 2024, signed into law by President Bola Tinubu on April 3, 2024. This fund provides loans to eligible Nigerians covering tuition, fees, charges, and living expenses for their education in recognized higher education and vocational training institutions within Nigeria. Key features, you might ask, of the fund? Indeed, eligibility and accessibility. The Act removed previous stringent requirements for loan approvals such as family income, guarantor, and parent loan history, making it more accessible to students. The loan is available to students of tertiary institutions and those seeking skill development programs. Now, stop right there. That question then comes being asked by many people, what's the guarantee that these NEL fund, these loans would last? What's the guarantee that everyone can access these loans? What's the guarantee that it is not political backing? It is not for those who have given political backing to those in leadership. These are questions that many Nigerians ask. But then, Newsnight sat down for a conversation with the Managing Director and the Chief Executive Officer of NEL Fund, Mr. Akintunde Sawyer, who tells us all that needs to be done in order to access the loan, the challenges that have been faced and how they've been handled, and what is likely to happen should you decide to defraud the loan fund. Should you decide to go contrary to the law? He says, they will be coming after you. Here's the conversation. Mr. Akintunde Sawyer, thank you for speaking with us on Newsnight. I must say you're quite a difficult person to catch, maybe because of the assignment you have now.
Wow.
Have you had to meet with some of these students, would-be students?
I've had the privilege to exchange discussions with some of them. But as you know, one of the things that we are trying to do is to ensure that there's no opportunity for the system to be rigged.
Okay.
So one of the things that we've built into the process is this non-interaction with those who might benefit from the loan. Because once people feel that, well, I know the MD or I know the chairman or I know this person, it begins to compromise the system slowly. So we discourage that direct interaction from the get-go so that it's a more democratic system. It's a fairer system.
So if you get it, you know that it's based on your application, you follow the requisite processes and all of that. That's why you got what you got.
Yes, and I think that's important because, you know, in too many sectors across the world, not just in Nigeria, things are done because of the people you know. Things are done for you because of the people you know rather than because you deserve or merit it. We want to make sure that this is merit-based somewhat. Merit in the sense that it's for indigent students, people who can't afford it, not people who know the MD.
Okay. You know, the student loan, which is what everybody knows, that's AKA, or the real name being the Nigeria Education Loan Fund, it's such that it's new to everyone. But when it broke, when the news of it broke, when it was first mentioned and people started talking about it, you could sense the excitement in the air. That this is coming, it will make things a lot easier. But that concern about who would it get to, in quote, the poor man's children. I'm sure that's the angle or part of what you're talking about when you say the human interaction completely removed or reduced to the barest minimum as much as possible. But let's walk us through this process. As I said, first mentioned, and then the excitement was there, then everybody was wondering, would it work?
Sure.
And now it's here. all manner of conversations going on out there, but just walk us through this. The Nigeria Education Loan Fund. Tell us what it's about.
Okay, so this is a fund that was signed in by way of a change in the law from the previous one, and signed into law by the President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on the 3rd of April this year. So there was a reenactment which basically said people who want to get tertiary education, people who need to get skills acquisition, certified skills acquisition, can get the training and the certification if they pass, if they qualify at the end of the process, without the hindrance or the worry of how they're going to fund the process. This scheme is designed to allow people to access funding, to get the education, to get the skills they need, or that they want, if you like, to be able to progress their own individual careers and meet their aspirations and desires, as long as they have the capacity, the desire, and of course, if they're eligible.
But there are many who are not even aware of why this Students' Loan Act. Why is there a particular, do I need to come from a particular place? Or maybe we shouldn't. Let's start with, first of all, why the Students' Loan Act? We'll go back to the common phrase that we all know, or the loan fund. Why?
Sure. So I think the reasons are very clear, at least to some of us. The first reason we need the Student Loan Act is because there's a recognition that in a nation like this, with so many people, one of the strengths that we often hear people talk about is that Nigeria has huge amounts of lots of people, if you like, and that there's real potential within the human capacity to do great things. One of the reasons that doesn't translate into anything significant in Nigeria and on the global stage is very simply because the people are not educated either to the right level or with the right skills. And one of the reasons that we don't have that connect to the future, if you like, is because people just can't access the right type of education at the right time, mainly because they don't have the funds. Now, a handful of people get through. Somehow they manage to get the education. And of course, one of the first things they do is leave the country. The majority of people are stuck here, and we need to find a way of making them useful to themselves and useful to the nation. And education is the answer. And we're not making it up. It's happened in many different countries.
So education's the answer, but then the kind of education we get here, the quality. Some will say, we have good people teaching. We have good classrooms. So I get the funds and I pay for it. But the curriculum is not futuristic. As you just said, the loan is to help connect to the future. So the loan's futuristic. But the curriculum doesn't appear futuristic because it's still the same old, so to speak.
Sure. And look, that's...
So with the loan, I come in and I apply for the loan, would he take me out of the country or he has to be used within the country?
Well, let me answer that question, first. The loan is for Nigerian students or Nigerian applicants who want to study in Nigeria at tertiary level. So the loan doesn't allow you to go and study abroad. It's your choice if you wish to do so, but this loan is Naira-based for Nigerian institutions and Nigerian students. In terms of your question around connecting it to the future, Nyota, one of the things I need to share with you is that when somebody takes a loan as opposed to a gift, they give it a lot more consideration in terms of how they deploy the loan, how they deploy the funds. What you will find is that over time, people will begin to say, if it's a loan, this is the course I'm going to study. This is the institution I'm going to go and get that education. People will begin to vote with their feet, and they will vote in the direction that they have concluded will get them the best return on the loan, on the investment that they're making. So certainly at this stage of the game, people are going to apply for the loan and get loans to do the courses they want to do. But you're going to get some people who are going to say, you know what I want to study is this program, because this program gives me the best chance of getting a better life for myself. And one of the consequences of that is that the country gets better educated, more relevant skills for the people. You will also find that over time, institutions will start to say, educational institutions will start to say, hang on, these are the courses that people are applying for. These courses are oversubscribed. These other courses don't have enough people wanting to apply for them. Mm-hmm. So we're going to drop these courses. Nigerians are intelligent enough to know. They're connected to the global world through the internet. They're intelligent enough to know what the futuristic courses are, the ones that are going to get them jobs, the ones that are going to help them make a living. And they're going to connect that to the fact that it is a loan. And so they want to get the best return on investment, the investment they're making by taking a loan.
Okay, so it's an education loan fund.
Yeah.
Does it cover research? So I'm sitting down here and I'm thinking I need to do a research for the future. I need to do a research I can sell to the industries or sell to the government. Can I apply for the loan?
Well, one of the interesting things about undergraduate studies is that there is usually a portion of the study, of the course, that's focused on a project, on some sort of research, on some sort of area of study. Now, in the more developed countries, those studies gathered together. Sometimes when you need to look further into a particular research topic, it becomes something that people study at master's level, at PhD level. So I'm not sure what you mean, but the reality of it is that education in itself is not just about regurgitated learning. It's about looking into problems, looking into challenges, and trying to get answers to those challenges and answers to those problems that then help you get to the point where you say, I've not only graduated, but I've discovered something new about the progress or the progression of mankind through knowledge.
It's interesting. Really, really interesting. So let's get down to this matter of the loan itself. How should one apply, or how do I apply for the loan?
Okay. So there is a portal. So one of the things that we talked about earlier is the fact that we want to reduce human interface. So we've decided to take this down the technology route. And by technology, I mean the information technology route, the IT route. We've developed an application that student applicants can engage with online. Put in certain pieces of information which give them basically around their eligibility for the loan. You have to be a Nigerian, you have to be financially included, so you have to have a BVN. You need to have engaged, at least on the student side, with JAMB. So you'll have a JAMB number. You have to have a place at an institution within Nigeria that's government owned. And essentially, once you're able to put your NIN, your BVN, your JAMB number, your date of birth, which all correlate to identify you as a singular individual, it then allows you to set up a loan account. That loan account stays with you all the way through your relationship with the NEL fund. And that loan account allows you to create a username, put in a password, gives you a dashboard, tells you what you're studying, tells you how much you're owing, how much you've paid back. It's essentially a statement-based dashboard that allows you to see exactly where you stand in your relationship with the loan fund.
Okay.
Once you've created that account, the next step is to say, okay, I'm going to this particular institution to study this particular course at this particular level, 100 level, 200 level, 300 level, medicine, physics, at an institution. The fees are there. So you can apply for a course or for the loan for a course you've already been admitted for at a fee that you know. Once you press the button to apply, having read the terms and conditions, we then make a determination at the back end as to whether you qualify or not. If you qualify, we grant you the loan. Once we've granted you the loan, what happens is that you get an approval letter to say that the institution you're going to will be paid your institutional fees. And you will receive, if you apply for the upkeep, a certain amount of money every month whilst you're in the institution studying for your upkeep.
So you said something earlier about filling or going on to the portal to check your eligibility. Now you've said again about qualifying, whether you qualify. So what makes you qualified for the loan? I thought the fact that you're a Nigerian, you're at a certain age, of course. I know that the age bracket will be there, not tied to state of origin, right? I know that will be there as well. I know that the NEL fund will take into account the federal character situation in our country. The other thing is, do all of this boil down to you being qualified, or is there a test you need to take to get the loan?
So, eligibility is around things like the fact that you're a Nigerian, the fact that you are financially included, so you have a BVN, the fact that you have a JAMB number, or you have some sort of JAMB admission, you have a matriculation number.
Which you had mentioned earlier.
Yes.
But this does not tie to your being qualified. This is just to clear your eligibility.
Sure.
So what makes you qualify?
Sure. So there are a number of other things that we look at. So this scheme is for indigent students primarily, those who cannot afford it. Remember I talked earlier about BVN. One of the things that the BVN does for us is it allows us to make some sort of determination as to your means, your financial means. There's where the qualification step really begins. Do you qualify? Can you afford it? If you can afford it, then why are you applying for the loan? It's an interest-free loan. So we're really targeting those who can't afford to pay their fees. And we begin to separate those who can from those who don't. Everyone can apply if they're eligible. Not everyone will qualify to receive the loan. So there's a qualification criteria. There are other criteria. For example, are you of good standing in the society? Have you been convicted of a crime? Have you been rusticated? Have you been asked to leave an institution for bad behavior? These are potential disqualification criteria. So you're eligible, but you're not qualified if we discover any of these issues are tied to you. So there's the distinction between eligibility and qualification, if you like.
Okay. So now that you've been qualified, you get this loan. It turns out that you actually have a job. Probably you couldn't further your education owing to the fact that, of course, you couldn't afford it. But now you actually have a job. That doesn't stand to disqualify you?
So you mean have a job whilst you're applying?
Yes.
Well, these are not absolutes, right? So we have people who are applying for the loan, and we're not going to say, well, everybody who's got a job is automatically disqualified. We're still looking at what kind of job do you have? Some people have a job for very little money. Some people have no job, but a lot of money, either because their parents are well-to-do. It's not tied to the job. It's not tied to the fact that you have an income. The question is, can you afford to pay your fees? And if you can't, NEL fund is going to be able to step in and help you.
What's the scope of this loan? What does it cover?
Okay.
Yeah, because I heard you mention, if you qualify, you get the loan, and then if you apply for the upkeep, that's something that many people are not aware. What's the scope?
Okay. So it's useful to look at this from the perspective that everybody has the opportunity to apply for two loans. One is for the educational cover. So the institution that you're going to study that subject at has a fee figure for the loan a fee figure for coverage of one session. The loan allows you to apply for 100% of that figure. If you qualify, if you're eligible and you qualify, you will get the value of 100% of that loan figure. The reason for that is very simple. The idea of this is that we allow you to apply for the course of your choice, provided you've been admitted for it, to get 100% of it, which we communicate and pay to the institution directly, so that you have unfettered access to classes, to knowledge, to learning, to exams, to seminars, to tutorials. That's what that side of it does. The other side is upkeep, because again, we recognize that you may be able to have unfettered access to classes, but you may need some extra funds, subsistence, photocopying, data. There are all sorts of things that students might need that, paying their fees alone won't help them with. So it's a sort of stipend, sort of pocket money that allows them to at least survive part of the experience. That is an upkeep loan. We pay it monthly directly to the individual who's eligible and qualified to receive it. And it allows us just to ensure that there's sufficient incentive for you to actually want to go to school, because we only pay it while you're in the institution.
In all of this, there is no, how do I ask this question now? In this requisite qualification things, there's no mention of political party.
Political party? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
So it's not political in any way?
Well, it's political in the sense that you have to be Nigerian.
That's the only politics that's allowed.
As far as...
So there's no PDP, Labour Party, NNPP, APC mentioned in any bit of this form.
I think, what we have here is an opportunity for Nigerians. Nigerians change their political affiliations from one day to the next because they have the right to do that. What this program does not do is seek to discriminate against anybody because they don't support the government of the day. Look, I've had the opportunity to engage on this subject with the President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and he's been very clear. This program is for all Nigerians. It's not for supporters of this group, that group, this party, this ethnic center. It's for all Nigerians. And that's the clear instruction that he has given.
Is there a sort of target that the fund is setting for this applicants to say, listen, you get into school, you must make a certain GDP, grade point average, you must make for you, not just the fact that the school re-registers you, but that there's a target for you to get to. Is there something like that? To sort of like say, hey, we're helping you, it's loan free, it's interest free, but you have to put in the work.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think what we need to try to do here is distinguish between a loan and a scholarship. A scholarship is given based on your ability or your academic prowess, if you like. A loan is funds that you borrow to enable you to achieve an end, and then you have to return the funds. We aren't setting any academic targets for people. It's a loan. People are taking responsibility for their own education. Some people are naturally very talented. They don't have to do very much to get top grades. Other people are hardworking and have to do a lot to get the same grades. The truth about it is that people are going to end up at different levels. This is not a scholarship. There are scholarship schemes in this country that look to help people who are gifted, who are talented, who are bright. And it's great because society needs those people. What we want to do is impact the majority of people in society by giving them the opportunity to be the best that they can be.
We stayed so much on the qualification and the process and all of that. And I know that just before the break, I asked you the question of recouping. Are these funds insured?
Yes. So because of the potential risk of loss of funds, so as you can imagine, if you deploy funds to anything, you make any sort of investment, you can lose that investment. Unfortunately, Some people will take the loan and at some point pass on. But the loan has been deployed. Again, unfortunately, some people will take this loan and have a debilitating illness that prevents them from being able to be useful to themselves or to society.
Or might get involved in some activity in school and they get rusticated.
That is also a possibility. But yes, and others will decide that they no longer want to pursue the career. And as you know, some people just up and leave the country and forget that they ever took a loan. So the answer to your very good question is yes, these loans will be insured. I should point out that the law makes provision for forgiveness of debt if the loanee dies. So, that in itself says that we're not going to go after the estate of the loanee if they die during the time that they're using the loan or sometime after that. But yes, insurance will take care of some of the risks, some of the exposure that we will face inevitably when you're doing something of this scale. Remember, this is something that's going to impact tens of millions of people in this country over time. And at a particular point in time, we're going to take stock of where we are, what's the risk around the loans, how much of it is going to come back, how much isn't. But it's worth remembering that, or pointing out to you that in terms of the loan recovery itself, it will be direct deductions from source when people are earning. And the loan itself, the funds themselves are coming generally from revenue, taxes. So the more people we have qualified, employable, getting into work, the bigger the tax base in terms of the numbers people paying tax back. So invariably, because it's a tax-driven, tax-based loan system, we're going to get the funds back because the people who take the loan, at least a good number of them, will end up being productive in society and will pay taxes, which will then go back into the fund.
This points to job creation. We need more jobs. We need more industries opening up. We need more people, more investors coming in, whether Nigerian or foreign investors coming in to create industries and open up the job space and create more jobs.
We do.
But in a situation where you have a tight economy, as the Nigerian economy currently is, and many multinationals moving out of the country.
Yeah, I think the operative word in your question is currently. Economies are dynamic. Things change. If you look around the world today, some of the most thriving economies, 20, 30 years ago, are in the doldrums now. Some countries that were really not doing very well in the past are blossoming. I can talk to you about the United Arab Emirates, 100 years ago compared to what it is today. Dubai specifically, which has very little oil, you can see how it's thriving because of the creativity, and the resourcefulness of the leadership there. Countries like Finland was a very poor country, a century ago. Today, it's a thriving country in Europe, primarily because of their investment in three things: education, and education. So there's a recognition by this administration that, this is the way to ensure that companies from abroad want to come and invest here, because they look at Nigeria, they see 200 million people or whatever the number is when we get to the point where we've achieved what we want to achieve with this, and say, those people over there can give us or can do for us what we want them to do for us. Therefore, we'll export our jobs to them. So all of that comes into play. Currently, it may not look very interesting. The other thing I should point out to you is that this program is designed to make people more creative, to help people be more thoughtful about what they're doing, to be more deliberate about the education they're getting. And once you start to do things like that, you start to sort of get people to the point where they want to become masters of their own destiny. They want to create businesses. They want to target industries that are required in this country, or they want to become the targets of outsourced businesses from other parts of the world. Examples like India, China, they're there. Phones, the numbers, iPhones are made in China, not in America. Countries like Indonesia, countries like Bangladesh are making apparel, that are sold in the high streets of the UK. So we need to get our people to the point where they can actually create, produce, develop, start businesses, and receive outsourced contracts from other countries. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Everybody does it. If you're good at it,
so
do it.
This fund is, yes, helping the people to get the education they need to attract the jobs that they need and the country needs as well. But what about what the education contains, the content of that education? Is that something that should bother the fund? Are you looking into that, or are you considering looking into that?
Yeah, when you put government policies like this in place, or any policy for that matter, there are consequences to these policies. And I was alluding to something earlier, and maybe I should just say it again. It doesn't matter what the curriculum is today. It doesn't matter. What matters is that if you're going to take a loan, you're going to look around the country for the institution that can give you the best opportunity and for the course that can give you the best opportunity. So over time, I think you'll start to find that people will start to ignore the courses that won't get them very far, because they'll see other people who've been sitting at home with no opportunity to get work because they studied a course at an institution.
If I may interrupt you.
Yes, of course.
So far, NELFund has about 126 institutions, universities, polytechnics, and all of that, owned by government as part of this, federal and state. But the private institutions that many consider as the institutions that have the futuristic courses right now are not part of the NELFund. You can correct me if I'm wrong there. So if that be the case, you'll find many Nigerians looking at those private institutions as they have the courses I want to do.
Sure.
But this fund doesn't cover that.
Sure.
Where do we do the balance?
Sure. So, and you're right, it is about balance. The truth about it is that we have a pot of funds, a pot of money. We want to stretch that money as far as we can, but we want to have our cake and eat it. We also want to give those people the right sort of skills to help them get on in life. Now, the truth about it, and there's no getting away from this, is that yes, the quality of education, the courses offered, the duration of the course may well be better in a private institution. But at the bottom of the pyramid, where the bulk of Nigerians are, you find them in the state-owned institutions. And that's where we believe we need to start. And note the word start. I believe that eventually this fund will stretch across the board, because this is about Nigeria and Nigerians. But we need to start somewhere, and we want to start where the biggest problem is. There are too many Nigerians sitting at home, unable to get into any institution of any sort, whether it's private or public, sitting at home on their hands, falling into depression, falling into frustrated situations or frustrating situations, wanting to leave the country, wanting to turn to crime, wanting to do things that they really have no business doing, because they're deprived of 46, 56, 66,000 naira. Okay, those are the people we want to focus on. Those are the people the president wants to focus on to begin with. But of course, if you have 1 million naira to go and spend in an institution that will give you good education, the right courses to pick from, it's great and fantastic. Please do that. Please contribute to the economy. But the people that we really need to get to, people we really need to pull up, are the people at the bottom of this pyramid of lack of education, because it will affect so many things in this country. those people are really the people that we need to rescue in the first instance. That's what this fund is going to do.
In the management of the funds, so I apply for a school, University of Nigeria, for instance. You pay the fees. I go there. I know somebody in the bursary department who is able to pull out a few of those funds or pull out the funds completely for me, and I take off.
There are people with criminal tendencies in every country in the world. Insurance fraud happens in the US, happens in the UK, happens in Singapore, happens in Switzerland. There are people who conspire to defraud institutions, organizations all over the world. I think, for me, when I hear this whole Nigerian factor thing, I think it disturbs me, because I think, actually, we're not as bad as many of the people that we see.
So you see, which is why I had to break it down, because there are two sides to the Nigerian factor.
Yeah.
There are Nigerians who are smart and leading globally in different industries.
Yeah.
Which is why I said the Nigerian factor, and I broke down the negative side of the Nigerian factor. So there is a positive side of the Nigerian factor. The resilience, the dedication to duty, and then desire to get to the end of that goal is also the Nigerian factor. And it's there.
Sure. So, to your main question, do we expect this to be completely foolproof, where there's absolutely no fraud? No, it's not possible. I would be being disingenuous if I said to you that, this is going to be completely bulletproof. There are going to be conspiracies. There are going to be those people, as you say, who apply to an institution. There's a conspiracy somewhere, money gets pulled out, people run off with it. What we're doing is we're going to be a learning organization. We're working with the security agencies. It's one of the reasons we're trying to make sure that we can uniquely identify people who we're granting money to or granting money on behalf of. We're also making very good attempts to ensure that we hold the people who are receiving the funds at the institutions, the functions that are receiving the funds, accountable. They still have a choice to, break the law, but there are consequences. And the way we've set this up, there will be consequences. This fund, the student finance scheme, in as much as it tries to make it as easy as possible for the applicants, what it doesn't do is say you can come here and deliberately defraud the fund and get away with it. There are consequences for false declarations, for false information, for conspiracy to defraud, to hack, to effectively steal money that belongs to the people. We will prosecute those who try to do that. We won't prosecute those who don't have a job and don't have money to pay for money they've borrowed for education, but we will prosecute those who conspire to defraud the fund. Employers, for example, if you look at the law, are required to make the payments on behalf of those who borrow the funds. It's not the individual. The employer has the onus to check whether the applicant for the job that they're about to give a job has a loan. And if they do, they're supposed to make deductions. So they will find on a database, using NIN, who's got a loan, and they will effectively have to make the deductions and pay it to the fund. If they fail to do that, it's a criminal offense, and we can go after the employer, not the employee, the employer. If a person is self-employed, in other words, you set up your own business and you're earning funds, we can choose to either take money from your account because we get you to sign a mandate. We have your BVN that allows us to access your account and take funds. If you tell us you haven't got any money and you're not working, we're finding X going into your account every month, we can do that. Or we can prosecute, reserve the right to do that. And the reason is very simple, not because we're set up as a vindictive organization, but because we have a queue of people who need this education. And if you're taking money out illicitly or conspiring to reduce the ability of the fund to serve those coming next, we will not take that lightly at all.
Is there a target, a number that you'll be looking at annually? Because there's a fund that you say is not inexhaustible. So is there a target you'll be looking at to give these loans to every year or every session? so that as we move along, it's okay, maybe 5 million, 10 million every year? And how much is the least that anyone can? There's like 3 questions of one.
So is there a target? Yes, there is. You know, this currently today in tertiary institutions, Nigeria, there are about across the board, including private, about 2 million, 1.8, 2 million students. In the public sector, it's about 1.2 million. This loan is open to those who are already in the institution. So this is not about those coming in only. This is about, you know, if you apply for a loan today, for the next session, you're eligible and qualified, you will get it. So arguably, we could give everybody a loan, everybody who applies for it. The funds are available for us to cover those sorts of numbers, you know, over time. There are 400,000 people, last time I looked at the numbers, being admitted into tertiary institution, public sector every year. So potentially we could be growing this number by 400,000 a year on the academic side. When you look at the vocational side, the numbers are much bigger. There are lots and lots of people who are naturally endowed. You know, we're looking at those numbers at the moment because we haven't kicked that off. We're trying to understand how many people, you know, want to get, you know, or need to get vocational skills or enhance those vocational skills, and skills that are in demand. Are they vulcanizers? Are they underwater welders? Are they bakers? Are they tailors? Are they, you know, there's a whole raft of vocations in this country that, you know, people, they're just not being measured by any standard. We want to bring in those skills. We want to put some sort of standardization in place so that when you call a carpenter to come and fix something in your house, he's got a certificate to say that actually I'm good enough to do it. When you ask somebody to come and change the gas canister in your kitchen, you want to know that it's not going to blow up. So we need people who are certified to change that gas canister to ensure that it doesn't become a public liability issue. So we want to bring in standards. It's going to bring in safety. It's going to make it attractive to, you know, those who are flying airplanes into this country, want to fix the airplanes, rather than take the plane to a different country to have it fixed or to have a part changed, or flying in engineers, as I found out the other day, from Egypt to fix aircraft in our airport. We want Nigerians to be able to fix the aircraft, to be able to do those sorts of jobs. But you know, when you're doing things like that, you have to be certified. So one of the things we're looking at is to help build that section. That's going to run, I think, over the next 10 years into tens of millions of people. But you know, what we need to do is start this thing at the bottom level. This year, we expect that we'll have 250, 300,000 applicants for the academic side. We're going to have far less than that for the vocational side, because we're just kicking that process off. One of the issues with that particular process is that they don't have JAM. Some of them are not financially included. I'm talking about the vocational side. Some of them don't have NIN, for example. So it's a lot trickier to identify those people and give them a loan.
You have the ITFs of this world to help you. The Industrial Training Fund.
Yeah.
They're talking about registering artisans,
yeah,
and those seeking for skills. And by law, they're supposed to be certifying them by the time they're done. Would you be working with the ITF for this?
So you know what we're going to do? Because we're not an arrogant organization, we're going to work with anybody that can help us. We're going to collaborate with other government agencies. We're going to collaborate with the biggest companies in this country to say, hey, look, we're going to train this person. You know, if we train them, will you take them?
If we fund their training.
If we fund their training.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. So, but effectively that translates to us training them. But if we fund their training, will you take them? We're going to enter into all sorts of agreements with different organizations, different outlets, different input providers. ITF will work with anyone, because, you know, this problem is for all of us to try to solve. And NEL Fund isn't going to stand alone arrogantly and say, you know, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. We have to work with others. We have to get into some group thinking situations and collaborative collaborative situation so that we can actually move the game forward. This is about Nigeria. It's not about, NEL Fund or ITF. We've got to begin to join the dots and make sure that things work together to give us and to help us achieve the targets that you alluded to earlier. I expect us to be touching the lives of, 10, 15 million people in a very short space of time, within 5 to 6 years. That's what I expect. I should also tell you that, something like 80% of the family income goes on investment in education in children. The minute we take some of these off the table, the family then has this more disposable income to do other things with. It could be trading, it could be opening businesses. This is going to impact the economy if we do this properly, the way we want to do it, in ways that people can't necessarily see. It's not just about training and getting a certificate. It's how does it affect the family structure of Nigeria? How does it affect the economy of Nigeria? How does it affect the social status of our people? It has far-reaching consequences, and we need to do this properly, and that's what we intend to do.
So finally, will you do this properly?
I hope so. And I use the word hope because, our intention is good. In terms of how we execute, we're going to need the help of a few other people. But from the NEL Fund side, what we've set out to do, we will do. But as I said earlier, there's no arrogance in this. We recognize that our success is tied to the success of other government programs, of other initiatives of government. What I can tell you is that we've got the greatest political support you could ever have or get for what we're doing. So we have no reason or excuse to fail.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nyota.
Thank you for letting us be a part of your day. We do appreciate the time you put in towards the program, but let's hear from you. Our handles are right there on your screen. Send us a message, send us a mail, and we'll be glad to read your mail. Also, you can catch up with this conversation, watch it again, and watch other conversations we've had. Just go to youtube.com/channelsweb or go to our website, channelstv.com/podcast to get started. Till we bring you another edition of the program, it's bye-bye.